Hi, my name is Robbie.
My name's Stephanie.
My name's Daniel.
We're going to be doing a review on Hannah and Her Sisters and Do the Right Thing. First, we're going to start with Hannah and Her Sisters.
Okay, so Hannah and Her Sisters is basically a dramedy. What I like to call a dramedy, a drama and a comedy put together. You know, it's a little of both. And it was made in 1986. It was written and directed by Woody Allen. So the film kind of starts off when they're like at Thanksgiving at Elliot and Hannah's house because they're married. But quickly you find out that Elliot basically has he's like uncommitted himself to his wife in a sense because he's having an affair with her sister Lee.
Yeah, he has, Elliot has some kind of resentment towards Hannah because of how independent of a woman she is, I guess, how strong she is in her emotions. He just basically tries to branch out, find someone new, and finds Hannah's sister.
Her sister. Really messed up. They're really keeping the family. But yeah. So continuing with the story, basically Lee also had somebody that she was involved with, and she was living with this man named Frederick who was older than her and basically kind of manipulated her, was trying to teach her stuff. It was kind of a weird situation, but she wanted to get out of that. And eventually she does because she tells them that she started an affair. Unbeknownst to everybody, I think, pretty much, it's Elliot. So, yeah. So Elliot and Lee basically continued this little love affair for the span of a year until the next Thanksgiving, pretty much, where she finally just gets fed up because Elliot doesn't want to leave Hannah. Like, he uses excuses like that she's too emotionally fragile, maybe, which makes no sense because he said that she whatever. So anyways, so he doesn't want to leave Hannah basically, and Lee finally has enough of his BS and leaves him. Yeah, like she was married. Okay, go.
And so before Hannah had met Elliot, she was with another guy named Mickey, and they were married and everything. They had children, but not biologically. Mickey, like, they weren't his children, but they had children. The marriage broke up because what's it called? Mickey couldn't
biologically give Hannah children.
Yes, he couldn't do that with Hannah,
Sterile.
and because of that and other issues, they broke off the marriage. They had a divorce, and later on, Hannah met Elliot, and well, even with that, Elliot was not the best.
Cheating.
Mm-hmm.
Just cheating. So continuing with that, Mickey, he's like a hypochondriac, right?
Yeah, he's always paranoid about everything. He even thought that he had a brain tumor
Mm.
because of what he was going through, but that was not the case at all.
He went through a lot of things, even tried a suicidal attempt. He was really depressed. A lot of things happened with him to the point where he basically had he kind of went through like a crisis, and he went to Hannah's other sister, Holly, to see if they can start dating again, because he already tried that one time, but Holly didn't like him too much. But the second time, after he changed himself, found religion and all this other stuff.
Hope.
Hope.
Found hope. He found purpose in life.
He tried things with Holly, and later on ended up having a kid.
Spoiler alert. With Holly's story.
Oh.
So yeah.
So, Holly was eventually met Mickey, but their first date didn't work out as planned. It didn't work. It wasn't as good as it should have been, I guess. And they didn't work together. Like, they didn't go together. So then they never went out again. And so later on, in around the beginning of Act 3, you can say, they met again, and this time it actually went through. This time Holly was clean because before she was a drug addict. She did cocaine, I think, something like that.
Yeah, she was a failed actress.
This time she was clean. She was right or whatever, and she tried many things to do, like as a career. She tried acting, and I think, what was it, the catering, or what was it?
Yeah, she tried
catering.
catering with the boyfriend, and then that fell through.
Yeah, then she tried acting, and that didn't work, and then she went ahead and tried doing writing, which Mickey liked, but
Well, first you have to tell about the story that she tried to base off like a love story off of Hannah and Elliot's
Yeah.
relationship, and she knew all about like the tumultuous relationship and everything going on from Lee, because Lee was having an affair with Elliot, so that almost kind of exposed their affair. And I know it'd be kind of crazy, but I mean, Elliot denies that he told Lee anything, but I think Hannah probably knows. Like, how do her sisters know all of this stuff?
Well, obviously, I mean, who knows what they know?
SMH. But so then she ultimately decides to start writing about herself, and that's a story that Mickey, who is Mickey, who is a screenwriter in the film industry, likes the story that Holly wrote, and he promises that he wants to try to make it a movie. He wants to help her make it into a movie, and thus blossoms their love.
And even in the end, with that love that starts to sparkle, they eventually started the process of having a children.
Where they end up getting pregnant. The movie ends with, the movie begins and ends on Thanksgiving, where Hannah never really finds out that Elliot cheated on her with her sister. No one really knows what happens.
I think a woman knows, but
Well, that was the worst part though. Like, she never found out what happened. What was the issue?
so all in all, like the story, I mean, man, it
There were-
has some twists and
There
turns.
was a lot of storylines.
There were a lot of
of
storylines.
action.
But I like the way they intertwined with each other. They all had something to do with each other.
It's kind of messed up.
It was
Really
bad.
kind of messed up. We have like, in a way, betrayal that Holly tried to write Hannah's story, like without her permission. So overall, we think the story is really interesting. The relationships that the sisters have with each other, I think it actually kind of reflects their parents' relationship, because their parents' relationship, while they all loved each other, the wife would cheat on the wife would cheat on the husband. But I mean, like, we see that mirrored with Elliot and Hannah, but instead it's Elliot who's cheating. But he loves his wife, and he doesn't want to leave his wife, even though he's supposedly in love with Lee. And in the end, they try to make it work. They're working on their relationship, and luckily, Lee ends up finding somebody, and she's married, and then Holly ends up pregnant and married too. Everybody kind of ended with a somewhat positive note, or at least hope for their lives. So Hannah and Elliot end up reconciling.
The marriage.
Is this good? I don't know. He cheated on her with her sister. It's not ideal.
I mean,
At
as long
all.
as you cheat with someone else, but like a sister has someone that you have as a family, that's even worse.
These people's morals are really, really just not that great, honestly. But I mean, it probably is like a reflection of their parents' marriage. So I mean, hey, we all do the best with what we got, basically.
Overall, the movie was great. Storyline was really good.
The acting was
Perfect.
All the storylines were just amazing, even though it was awful.
Yeah, like,
but it was still good.
it hurt, kind of like that's what was really happening in real life. That shit hurted. Like, that would really just suck. That would be a bummer. You'd feel like heartbroken, betrayed, of course. But at the end though, it's real, because that kind of stuff does happen.
Maybe not as twisted as that.
No,
but
that kind of
Yeah, you know.
stuff happens. I know people.
That kind of stuff.
Okay.
I know people, yeah. Like, that stuff happens. You'll like, people will cheat on their best friend. You know what I mean? Like, their
Actually,
best
yeah,
friend, they'll
that's
sleep with their
nice.
husband. Like, I mean, that's like a sister too. So I mean, and there's literally been people, I'm sure, that have cheated with, his wife's sister, her husband's brother. Like, that stuff happens. So all in all, at least the story's real. It's twisted, and it's definitely not ideal, but it's real, and we appreciate that, right?
All right, we're gonna move on to Do the Right Thing now.
What is that?
Fight the power.
Oh my god.
That
Pretty
intro
much.
was so long.
Yeah, that intro.
It was ridiculous. It should
Oh
not have
my
been there for that long.
The intro to Do the Right Thing was interesting.
Let's say that.
It's just taking forever.
It was about 5 minutes long. We're going to show you a little snippet of it. We're going to try to. And try to enjoy it.
Yeah,
See that girl.
Gotta give us what we need. Hey, our freedom of speech means freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power. Fight.
Felt like 10 minutes. Says it's only 5 though, but
It felt like an eternity
Yes, it
didn't stop.
with that intro.
Quite a dancer though. I love her spirit. But it basically starts off do the right thing with basically just having all the characters, introducing the characters who they are. There was Mookie, his girlfriend Tina, his sister Jade, his little brother Hector. There's Bugging Out. Sal, he's one of the Italian guys
That owns the pizza shop.
that owns a pizza shop.
Gordon Roy.
Vito and
Son.
what was the other guy?
Pito?
Pito. So-
Vino and Pito, like what? Better. So Pino is extremely just like racist and hostile towards like
African Americans.
African Americans, and his brother Vito, right?
Vito.
Or Vino.
Vito. Vito is real. He's real nice.
Cool.
He's cool.
He was friends with
Mookie.
Mookie,
He was real
and
tight friends.
Mookie kind of like encouraged him to stand up towards his brother because his older brother was just like a jerk,
Mhm.
and he would always kind of like
Yellow Jackets.
just be
Undermine him, and just be
yeah,
nasty
like
and
demean
rude.
him.
Their father Sal owns the pizza shop. He would be known for only putting up Italian Americans up on his wall, and that actually set up that offended quite a few of the African American community because they wanted more black leaders on the wall than just Italian Americans.
It was an Italian shop, Italian owned though, so it doesn't seem
Like it should have.
like it should have been such an issue.
But
But yeah,
you gotta get your message through somehow, I guess.
no, no.
They were in the middle of like a whole black community, and it was the hottest day ever recorded there. So a lot of tensions rose up that probably wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for the heat. But because of those tensions rising up, a lot of things happened within the span of just one day. Basically, what happened was throughout the whole day, everybody was just throwing racial slurs at each other. Africans against Koreans, Koreans against Jews, Jews against there was just a whole mess. Towards the end of the day, around nighttime, around the evening, Mookie goes to the store to confront Sal. Yeah, they were trying to Mookie confronts Sal because they were trying to boycott the pizza parlor because they wanted more African American leaders or famous actors up there on the wall that they had there. Sal refuses. At the end of the night, Mookie's friends Radio Raheem and Bugging Out, they confront Sal about that too, but they're more aggressive about it, I guess. Not really aggressive. It was mainly just
Like a lot of people, when they wanted to boycott the pizza parlor, a lot of people didn't. They were like, "Why? Like the pizza's good. Like the pizza's like like other people, like the dad, the owner, Sal. He actually like he was cool like with African American people. He really didn't seem to have much like
he didn't really have a problem with them.
tension or anything. He flirts with Mookie's sister a lot, and to the point that Mookie's telling his sister like, bro, he wants you, like what are you doing, and dang, yeah. So I mean, it wasn't like the boycott wasn't even like really necessary because it's not like he was trying to create racial tension, but I think if anything it was just his son
Mm-hmm.
that was just kind of creating that anger with some of the other younger African Americans in the community.
Pino was just adding fuel to the fire, basically. It was already hot, and he was just making it hotter. Towards the evening, Bugging Out and Radio Raheem confront Sal about the pictures up on the wall. And Radio Raheem, he just always carries a boombox around, so he just sets it on the table, and it's full blast. You can barely hear them. They gotta yell at each other, and they're yelling out all kinds of names, all types of names at each other. To the point where Sal has enough, gets a bat, smashes the radio. Radio Raheem gets mad, grabs Sal from the counter, just tosses him out, starts beating him, strangling him. It spills out to the streets. The cops see, and the cops grab a hold of both Radio Raheem and Sal and everybody, because everybody was fighting at that point. Even the mute guy, Smiley, was in that tussle. Turns out the cops wouldn't let go. One of the cops wouldn't let go of Radio Raheem, got him in a chokehold, and unfortunately, Radio Raheem died from that. And the cops, seeing that there were witnesses around, just took his body, put it in the back of a squad car, and drove off.
They put his body in the cop car and drove off with all of the community witnessing this murder. It just makes no sense.
Corrupt
Like,
cops.
it's
They're-
corrupt.
yeah.
The corruptness.
They also basically just left Sal and his sons alone for the mob to feed on. Mookie sees that they kill Radio Raheem, and he gets angry. He wants revenge, so he throws a trash can into the window of Sal's shop, pizza shop, and that's when a basic riot just breaks out, and they start tearing down the shop. And at the end, Smiley is the last one that walks into the shop and just burns down the whole place. I think that's a little funny that the mute guy is the one that burns it down.
Yeah, I mean, it was unexpected. He ends up putting like a picture that he draws and like paints himself of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and he ends up putting them up on the parlor wall,
On the pizza wall.
on the fame or the Hall of Fame or fame
The Wall of Fame. Yeah.
Wall of Fame.
It was just a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X shaking hands. The movie ends with two famous quotes from both. I mean, two quotes from both Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. We'll show you the quotes in a little bit.
What is that? Police taking. more
Police
than what they can.
brutality,
Yeah.
police
brutality.
corruptness, basically, have all been highlighted in this film.
A lot of racial tension too between the community,
Mhm.
between all kinds of races.
The social issues and topics that this film, highlights is definitely something that's prevalent. It was prevalent back then in the 90s, and it's still something that's prevalent today.
Even in the past, like everything throughout
It's
US
always,
history,
it's just something that's always been there, unfortunately. But, I mean, the film,
it highlighted though, like it showed, it emphasized it.
it was necessary in a way. Like, I mean, it's good that somebody made a film like this, and there's so many more that have been filmed to this day. But when it was originally released, it was still a new thing for people to be talking about. So that, I think, is also one of the reasons why the film, was
Such a
very
hit.
successful in the sense. I think there are plenty of good people in America, but there are also plenty of bad people in America. And the bad ones are the ones who seem to have all the power and be in these positions to block things that you and I need. Because this is the situation. You and I have to preserve the right to do what is necessary to bring an end to that situation. And it doesn't mean that I advocate violence, but at the same time, I am not against using violence in self-defense. I don't even call it violence. When it's self-defense, I call it intelligence.
Violence as a way of achieving racial justice is both impractical and immoral. It is impractical because it is a descending spiral ending in destruction for all. The old law of an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. It is immoral because it seeks to humiliate the opponent rather than win his understanding. It seeks to annihilate rather than to convert. Violence is immoral because it thrives on hatred rather than love. It destroys community and makes brotherhood impossible. It leaves society in monologue rather than dialogue. Violence ends by defeating itself. It creates bitterness in the survivors and brutality in the destroyers.
Like the movie was basically highlighting the fact that,
Violence doesn't work.
violence isn't the answer. And obviously there was so much destruction that happened. Like, well, for one, but they lost a life. Like, a life was lost because of the racial tension and the police brutality and, just a mix of it all. And it really just sucks. At the end of the day, it was kind of like violence was what started it and what ended it. And that really could have just been avoided in a way if people found a way to communicate with each other. So, I mean, a life was lost. The pizza parlor was lost. I highly doubt the Italians are going to stay there. Those people are going to miss out on good pizza. But at the same time, yeah, the son's attitude towards the African Americans in the community was completely just it was just wrong. It was completely just disgusting. But, I mean, I would say that I would definitely go for Martin Luther King's approach for his quote, basically, like, love is the answer, not violence, not hate. So yeah.
I believe the Martin Luther King's quote is right in a way too. You know, like you do need love. Love is the answer to solve a lot of problems, but people just don't want to speak up. They don't want to communicate. They just rather be prideful, be lustful, follow whatever sin they follow.
They would rather live in fear than love.
Probably rather live in fear than let themselves be loved. But at the same time, Malcolm X also has a point as well. You can't just sit back and let people just throw shit at you. You gotta defend yourself. He didn't really advocate violence. He didn't want to advocate violence, but he wasn't against self-defending as well. Because in the end, you're not gonna just let someone just beat on you until you die.
Amen. That's true.
Amen. It is what's it called? Martin Luther King's approach to like fixing stuff is better. Although it is slow and it may seem ineffective, it actually does work in some way or in one way or another. And well, if Malcolm X he wanted to do it, like I guess do a bit of action stuff and do it through harm, like if he had to, if he really had to, then he'll do it. And Martin Luther King, he just wanted to do it through peace. He did not want to hurt anyone, and I think it's just better for everyone. No one has to be killed. No one has to be hurt that badly, and it's awful, but still, Martin Luther King's approach to that kind of stuff is better. Malcolm X,
So thank you. My name is Robbie again. This is Stephanie and Daniel. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.